thousands of games, hundreds of studios, dozens of Hub Market partners, an industry-leading Hub wallet, and just one API. Hub 88 is connecting businesses to a world of limitless content where the possibilities are endless. Hub 88.
Well, hello and welcome back, one and all, to your weekly news with Next.io with me, of course, your host, Conor Mulher, and the one and only best co-host in the world, the fabulous Mr. Nico Jensen. Nico, how are you? Happy New Year, I should say.
Yeah, happy New Year to you as well. Happy to New Year to our audience as well, of course. Yeah, mate, I'm thrilled. Kicking off things like we never lose touch at all. Did you see the new video advert?
I loved it. Yes, I was a little surprised appearance for Sonia there. I didn't know that was coming. And, of course, the wonderful Sasha Bourma, who joined us for our South Africa special just a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
So, yes, very nice new entrance video. Adds a bit of glamour to proceedings, Nico. I think people get sick and tired of looking at us every single week. So, yes, nice to have some new characters appearing. And just you wait and see what special guests we've got for you this year. But of course, this is our first episode of 2025. We're taking it back to basics. It's me and you, the gruesome twosome, as we always like to have. I'm coming at you today, Nico, from a very, very cold and wintry London. It's quite sunny outside, but shout out to everybody in the UK who is dealing with and battling against this bitter cold at the moment. You may have noticed I've got what you might describe as hat hair. I went out for a little walk at lunchtime, but I needed to have my woolly hat on because it's absolutely freezing out there. So make sure you wrap up warm. Any viewers in the UK, as you already know, we haven't had snow here in London, but it may still be coming. What's it like where you are, Nico?
So, first of all, the weather in Bavaria is quite flexible, while in the more northern part of Germany, things are going south because it's snow all over the place. I'm always listening to a local radio station of my hometown. They're like, snow all over the place. People are driving crazy, blah, 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 blah. So they are throwing snowballs at each other. But here in Bavaria, Munich, it's 25 degrees of Celsius, sunshine. If you're reading something else, it's fake news.
25 degrees. Well, Nico, that just goes to show why our viewers love you so much. Who else could use a phrase like, in the north, things are going south? Brilliant. It's just the most wonderful contradiction. Okay. Anyway, let's get down to it, Nico, because 2025 is off with a bang. We've already had some pretty interesting legislative developments just in the first week of this year, and we may see some potential new regulated iGaming jurisdictions emerging this year if some of these legislative pushes are able to go ahead. And we've got lots more on that coming up. We'll get into the details of some of those new jurisdictions. But first, of course, it wouldn't be weekly news, Nico, without the world famous, world renowned and hugely respected 10 in 5. It's the only place you can get so much news in such a short space of time. And Nico, nobody does it quite like you. Are you ready?
Born ready, mate. Still ready, and I'm never gonna leave it. So, Bet365 returns to profit in fiscal year 23-24 with revenue growth and US expansion. Sports betting giant Bet365 has reported a return to profitability in its 23-24 fiscal year, driven by betting and gaming segment revenue, which contributed 3.7 billion pounds in revenue, which is an equivalent of 9% year-on-year growth. The profit before tax for the segment totaled 626.6 million pounds, and CEO Denise Coates attributed the strong performance to product enhancement and significant investments in the company's US operations. So once again, shout out to the tier one operator, global leader in the gaming, online gaming market with more than 88 million customers all over the world. Shout out once again to Stoke City's proud Bet365. Flutter Entertainment warns of 370 million revenue shortfall, and now listen, driven by NFL betting losses. Flutter Entertainment has warned of a revenue shortfall for its US operations, citing unfavorable NFL betting results during November and December. They are called the Black Swans results. The sport outcomes, described as the most customer-friendly in the nearly 2 decades, have caused a substantial hit to its FanDuel segment, or in numbers, the FanDuel's revenue for fiscal year 2024 is projected to fall 370 million below the previously forecast midpoint, forcing the company to revise its financial forecast for 2024. I'm pretty sure they will survive, but keeping our fingers crossed, and shout out to Flutter Entertainment. LiveScore Group revenue rises 38% despite market challenges. LiveScore Group generated a 38% year-on-year revenue increase to 179 million pounds for the full fiscal year ending 31st of March 2024. Despite ongoing restructuring efforts and challenging market conditions, and despite its revenue growth, LiveScore remained unprofitable, reporting an adjusted EBITDA loss of 39 million pounds. Commenting on LiveScore's strategy, analyst at Regulus Partners said, LiveScore has contributed to grow market share in the UK with a highly successful content-led customer acquisition model, as well as leveraging the Virgin brand in betting. Now heading over to some fines, as Admiral Casino has been hit with a £1 million penalty for AML failures. The UK Gambling Commission has issued its first regulatory penalty in 2025, charging GreenTube Alderney Limited, the operating company of Admiral Casino, with a penalty of £1 million. If you're interested in what's causing this penalty, of course, I will give you the information. The company's AML failures occurred between September 2022 and June 2023 and saw a lack of scrutiny of available information upon receipt, leading to delays in the identification and potential escalation of money laundering or terrorism financing risk. We are just speaking about potentials, not something which has happened. And they also add, the UK Gambling Commission also asserts that GreenTube failed to follow its own policy around risky occupations, such as not considering a customer's job as a finance manager who the regulator states could have access to misappropriated or laundered funds in their profile. So if you ever ask yourself where madness starts, this is probably one of the reasons. Then KSA orders 1 million euros in fines on unlicensed websites of Alimaniere Limited. The KSA, the gambling authority of the Netherlands, has issued a 1 million euros fine to the Curaçao licensed online gambling group Alimaniere Sociedade de Responsabilidade Limitada, which operates the Alimaniere Limited. Despite the website being IP blocked, the KSA investigation revealed that the provider had created another website, timetospin1.com, where Dutch players could use the account they had previously created on the other website. And from my perspective, This is a clear violation of giving denied customers another possibility and access to unlicensed operations. So shout out to the KSA. Then an information which we at Next.io have exclusively on, or we have been the first in the gaming industry to report the following, as Tipico is about to acquire Admiral Austria, so the betting branch of Novomatic, as they are eyeing global markets. Tipico Group has struck a deal to acquire a 100% stake in Atlas Group, the parent company of Admiral Group in Austria, from Novomatic for an undisclosed sum. Admiral Sportwetten operates an online platform while customers can also bet in one of more than 200 branches throughout Austria. And we have an official statement as well, which reads as follows. This agreement is an important milestone in Tipico's expansion strategy to further broaden our leading role in the German-speaking market and strengthen our position in Austria, said Tipico CEO Axel Hefer. Then heading over to two quite interesting casino projects in the US. As in Michigan, Little River Band of Ottawa Indians, a 180 million casino project in Muskegon is reportedly halted. However, despite their persistence, it seems that the project may be coming to an end before it had a chance to take off. Ojima Larry Romanelli recently confirmed that the tribe's financial resources and patience are running low. The proposed 180 million casino resort in Muskegon County would have been the tribe's second gaming facility in Michigan. However, as of now, it has come to a halt. But things wouldn't be as crazy as we wouldn't come out with another rabbit out of our hat, as the Manhattan Community Board opposes a 12 billion Hudson Cards casino. So the 12 billion casino and entertainment complex proposed for Manhattan's Hudson Yards has hit a significant obstacle after the Community Board 4 anonymously voted against a zoning change required for the project. CB4's rejection poses a potential death blow to the project, and final approval hinges on consent from the city council and the mayor's administration. So if this potential new project might fall through the cracks, I'm pretty sure we will see a significant increase in the competition for the Times Square project, where another casino might become reality in the city of New York, so Manhattan Island. Then DraftKings launches a subscription service for New York customers. DraftKings introduced the new service at the end of December. Priced at $20 per month, the service offers stepped up odds boost on all parlays. And we have an official statement which reads as follows. The subscription service was designed to offer our customers an enhanced fan experience, creating more excitement and value to our extensive parlay offerings, DraftKings said in a statement. And last but not least, X Money. Elon Musk's bold step towards a super app. Elon Musk's social media platform X is undergoing another transformation with plans to roll out new payment system called X Money later this year. While Musk has previously hinted at introduction a payments feature on the platform, the idea was officially confirmed by CEO Linda Yaccaroni in a post on X on the 31st of December. Although a specific launch date for X Money has not been announced, the platform has been transparent about its progress. X Payments LLC has already secured money transmitter licenses in 33 states in the US, making significant progress toward making the service a reality. So quite interesting what's happening over there with X. And this has been my 10 and 5.
Very nicely done, Nico. Take a deep breath and relax while I make a quick shout out to Bogdan, Federico, Ayadeji, and anybody else who's commenting. I've got a LinkedIn user here saying this is crazy news about the Tipico acquisition. I'm sorry, I can't see your name from here, but whoever you are and wherever you are, welcome to the conversation. We are going to be here live, and anyone who's joining in with us live for the session, I'd like to ask you to put your thinking caps on, get your crystal balls out, and let's have a think about our predictions for the industry in 2025. At the end of this episode, once we've gone through our legislative updates, Nico and I are going to take a look at some of your predictions if you leave them in the comments for us, and we'll give you a couple of predictions of our own. And then next year, we can come back and see how wrong we were. But first, before we go on to this legislative updates, actually, Bogdan mentions in the comments that the DraftKings promo is an interesting one for sure, Nico. I'd be interested to get your take on this a little more. I think the cynic in me, which is only, say, 95% of my personality, thinks that it's a little bit cheeky of DraftKings to offer extra long odds on a lot of these parlays, which are obviously very unlikely to pay out anyway. We know that, of course, bets of that kind are hugely more profitable for operators, but they're also becoming increasingly popular. And it is, I think, for many sports bettors, it's the new way of playing the lottery. You can make some outrageous parlay with odds of 1,000 to 1 or 10,000 to 1 and put a small stake on it. So what do you make of that idea about a subscription service, Nico? Do you think it's an innovation that customers have been asking for and customers want, or is it a cynical cash grab? I'm between two minds.
So first of all, it's a smart move from a revenue perspective, charging $20 per month and just offering, okay, we will increase or boost the odds on crazy parlays, as you already mentioned, like a double digit of combined bets. And then it's like, okay, so we will boost your odds by 10, 12, 15%, whatever. And you will just have access to these odds boosts if you subscribed to the $20 per month secured revenue. And that's just crazy. From my perspective, it's a rip off the customers, because we have seen literally the same as soon as you combine like 6, 7, or 8 matches in a huge parlay. And then sometimes operators offer you increased odds by 10%, 15%, 20%. So the more likely your bet will fail, then you are actually giving the customers an extra boost. And that's just the criticism I'm getting. I'm just reading from the outside of my eye that Bogdan has a different approach there as well. I couldn't read it yet, but I'm happy to hand over the microphone to you once again, Connor.
Yeah, well, Bogdan makes a good point, and he provides some interesting context on this. So the first month is completely free. From the second month, it's $20 a month, but you can cancel anytime. That's very important for subscription models. I don't like it when you get tied into things you have to pay for 12 months up front or anything. So as long as you can cancel anytime, then obviously bettors can make their own informed decision about this. And yes, it has the potential for a 100% price boost on winnings for betting slips containing 11 or more events, but the maximum bet is capped at $25. So it does clearly target recreational players rather than higher rollers. Bogdan, thank you for your input. Certainly adds a bit of important context to that story. And I'm sure if it's successful in New York, where it started, this program will be rolled out across DraftKings' other live states. And hopefully, when it comes to DraftKings reporting their earnings in the next few quarters, maybe they'll tell us how much of that revenue comes from subscription, what the impact is on the parlay mix, and all the rest of it. At the end of the day, Nico, we always say this, the most important person is the customer. And of course, this is totally optional. It's only those customers who are most interested in parlays, probably, who are going to take that on. So let's wait and see. Time will tell. But Bogdan, don't forget to give us your predictions for 2025. We're going to come to those at the end of the episode. But first, let's dive into it, Nico. We're already 20 minutes in. We haven't even started on our first main story, but it's just so nice to chat, isn't it? So we're going to move on quite quickly to Maryland. We have potentially some very exciting news from Maryland. Of course, these legislative processes in the US states are long. Nothing is guaranteed just yet. But the Maryland General Assembly has restarted the discussion on legalizing online casinos, as a bill that was filed last year now appears on the state's legislative calendar. So it's called House Bill 17, and it seeks to legalize and regulate online casino gambling in the state. Bogdan's running to a meeting, but thanks for coming along, and make sure you check back the rest of the episode later. So HB 17, if it's passed, it would authorize Maryland's State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission to license and oversee online gambling operations. So the bill was first introduced in October last year, and it had its first reading by what they call the Ways and Means Committee yesterday, meaning that it was in fact the first gambling-related legislation to be debated in the US in 2025. We're off to a flying start. So the bill outlines a regulatory framework for granting licenses to qualified applicants, ensuring compliance with state and federal laws, and promoting equitable opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses in the iGaming sector. As many of you will know, this is not the first attempt to bring online casino gambling to Maryland. In the 2024 legislative session, the same delegate, who's named Atterbury, introduced a similar legislative bill, while Senator Ron Watson sponsored a companion bill in the Senate. Watson's bill received a hearing in the Senate Budget and Taxation Committee, but failed to advance any further than that. So here we go. We have a new attempt and a new opportunity for Maryland to approve and introduce regulated iGaming. However, the proposal does face considerable opposition, particularly from the state's land-based casino operators. So several casinos, including one called Maryland Live, have expressed strong concerns that legalizing online casino could cannibalize revenue from land-based facilities. Operators argue that shifting gambling activities online might detract from the in-person experiences that support jobs and local economies. But, as you can imagine, HB 17 aims to generate significant revenue for the state, with the funds collected from online gambling taxes allocated towards education, workforce development, and problem gambling initiatives. So that's all we know so far. The path forward is, of course, far from certain. Lawmakers will need to weigh up the economic opportunities presented by the introduction of regulated iGaming versus concerns about its societal and financial impacts. So it's a story we've heard many times before, Nico, where actually I think it's easy to imagine that actually the people who would most benefit from the introduction of iGaming are land-based casino operators who have that opportunity to create an omni-channel experience and link up online rewards with land-based rewards and create that, occupy that piece of their customer's mind and stay front of mind there and have different touch points to engage with the brand. But obviously, not everybody sees it that way. I think operators in New Jersey may disagree that there's cannibalization, maybe to some extent, but actually, obviously, it's a hugely profitable and huge revenue generating market in New Jersey and, of course, in several other US states. What do you make of this one, Nico? Maryland, do you think it's, fair criticism about the cannibalization?
So first of all, it's always the same old people, probably with the mindset, criticizing things. Usually numbers don't lie. Just remember when New York opened up to iGaming. First of all, everybody was kind of afraid that revenues which are reported from New Jersey will see a severe and significant hit, a decrease of numbers. Funny enough, 2 years later, New Jersey has never reported numbers going down. So this kind of anticipated cannibalization has never seen the light. Same applies to any other state as well. And the only concern which people in Maryland and other states should be aware of, as of now, these revenues are untaxed. As soon as you come up with a regulatory framework, you are eligible to tax these revenues. So these revenues happen so or so. You just need a VPN, you log on to whatever licensed state, and then you are able to actually use these services. Why not allow the people in Maryland to officially sign up for sports books, etc., and then the tax incomes or the tax revenues of the operators who are licensed in that specific state will be taken for the greater good of the overall state and their spending. So that's just my take on this one.
Yeah, no, I think I agree with pretty much everything you said there, Nico. And there's an interesting development happening because, as I mentioned, we have several legislative stories today. Another one comes from Virginia, and this is quite an interesting approach because it may help to squash any fears of cannibalization in that state. Nico, I know you've been looking into this one. What have you been finding out about Virginia?
Yeah, so first of all, based on the story you just introduced, we have a similar story in Virginia this week as well, as a new bill has been introduced in the state Senate, aims to expand Virginia's gambling framework by allowing existing licensed casino operators to offer iGaming as well. So if you're holding a licensed casino operations, you are then eligible to sign up for iGaming as well. And that's actually just based on what you came up with in Maryland, that you're able to actually expand the value chain as well. So Senate Bill 827, sponsored by Senator Locke, was pre-filed on New Year's Eve and scheduled to be reviewed by the Committee on General Laws and Technology this week. Under the bill, iGaming licenses would be restricted to Virginia's 4 currently licensed casino operators, which are Caesars Virginia, Golden Eagle Corp, Hard Rock Bristol, and Rivers Casino Portsmouth as well. Operators must apply for a specific iGaming license at an initial cost of $1 million, with licenses valid for 5 years. So per year, you're paying $200,000. Senate Bill 827 also incorporates measures to address consumer protection and problem gambling. The legislation mandates that operators verify users' ages to ensure only individual 21 and older participate. Always remember that the model of daily fantasy sports like FanDuel and DraftKings are eligible for people aged 18. And we always mention this so often, so you can actually get the customers familiar with your offerings already 3 years until these customers could potentially sign up for your sports betting offerings as well, which gives the daily fantasy sports like FanDuel and DraftKings a head start in every state they sign up. So it also requires geolocation technologies to confirm that bets are placed within Virginia or authorized jurisdictions. And now it gets interesting, as the bill proposes a 15% tax on adjusted gross internet gaming revenue and 2.5% will be allocated to problem gambling treatment and support fund. The remaining funds would bolster Virginia's general fund, offering a new revenue stream for public programs and services. If the bill is approved, Virginia wants to move quickly. The Virginia Lottery Board is tasked with creating regulations to govern iGaming and has a deadline of 30th September 2025 to complete this task. License application would open on 1st of July 2025, offering existing casino operators sufficient time to prepare their submissions. So that's the latest and greatest of Virginia. What do you make out of this, Connor?
So I think there's a lot of things going in this bill's favour, probably. I think it's a very straightforward and simple way of doing this without kind of rocking the boat too much, because it's restricted to the 4 existing land-based casino licensees. I think that would make it very, very easy to oversee compared to, you know, a huge open competitive market. I think the drawback is exactly that. Is there something slightly anti-competitive about this, and restricting in the legislation itself, restricting the number of licensees to those who are already there? I know that, you know, unless it's done through partnership with some of the big operators, maybe, you know, FanDuel Casino Online would launch with Rivers Casino Portsmouth, say, or however it might go. In some states, we've seen that with sports betting, where operators have to partner up with either a sports team or a stadium or a casino. But I think it all seems like it's kind of been designed to be very favourable, obviously, to those existing licensees. I wonder what the lobbying efforts were like. Also, the 15% tax rate I would describe as pretty business friendly compared to some of the tax rates we've seen. You know, you think about, is it 51 or 49% in New York on
51
on sports betting revenue? That's it. So seems to me like it's a really good deal for the 4 licensees that they have at the moment. Not that good a deal for anybody else, probably. What do you think?
Yeah, pretty much the same. And just to put the numbers of Maryland and Virginia a little bit into the more global approach. So Virginia would rank with a GDP on its own, just in between Belgium and Sweden. So the likes of Belgium and Sweden, which are pretty much the same size on a GDP base as Virginia, while Maryland would rank just in between Malaysia and the Philippines. So we are not speaking about small sized GDP based countries. So first of all, opening these states in the US to the iGaming market is for sure a significant, or has for sure a significant impact. And as you already pointed out, just for Virginia, first of all, we are quite, or Hard Rock is quite well known as they are owning Florida. So with Virginia, with 3 more competitors, competition always keeps you in condition. So this will be quite interesting how this also might affect the offerings in Florida as well. Because once you have to update your iGaming offerings, I'm pretty sure they would also roll out the same approach to their offerings in Florida as well. So this might be one of the side effects to the existing market in Florida, which will be for sure quite interesting to see. But as said, these 2 states will not be the only states which we will probably see opening up and thinking about opening up for the tax haven money of the gaming operators as well.
Yeah, absolutely, Nico. If Virginia does open, it sounds like it could take place very, very quickly. We're talking about creating regulations by the 30th of September this year. Again, I think that has to do with how how consolidated and relatively simple a market this would be with only 4 potential operators. It would be a relatively easy market to govern compared to others, I think. So there's potential there for a new market launch this year even. But let's wait and see. Every story has 2 sides, and I'm sure there'll be lots of people who are up in arms about this and do not want to see iGaming introduced to Virginia. There may also be lots of people who do want iGaming but don't want it in exactly the way that this bill sets out. So we'll keep you updated as we learn more, as always. Now, our third main story of the week, we are heading to Ukraine, where President Volodymyr Zelensky has enacted law number 9256D, which mandates the dissolution of Ukraine's Commission for the Regulation of Gambling and Lotteries. Shortened name of that is CRAIL, effective from the 1st of April. So the Ukrainian parliament initially passed this legislation in April 2024, and it included provisions to restructure the governance of the gambling sector by replacing CRAIL with a central executive body. So this new body, once it's created, will be responsible for formulating and enforcing state policy around gambling and lotteries within the parameters established by Ukraine's constitution and laws. And the new regulatory framework grants the incoming authority a range of responsibilities to strengthen its control over the gambling market. So responsibilities, as you would imagine, will include drafting and approving laws related to gambling, setting licensing conditions, and managing real-time monitoring of gambling activities. It will also establish player identification protocols and will draft recommendations to promote responsible gambling with guidelines such as maximum daily and weekly play limits, requiring mandatory breaks during gambling sessions, and establishing spending caps that operators must enforce. Now, why are we hearing about this now? Well, it's only just been enacted. We've got that deadline now of April, but why has Ukraine been looking at reforming its gambling sector? Well, the decision to dissolve CRAIL was part of a broader effort to improve regulation in Ukraine around gambling. It's been legal in Ukraine since 2020, but an industry, I suppose, that's still finding its feet there, let's say. So the government has identified inefficiencies and controversies around CRAIL's operations as some of the factors that require reform. So CRAIL's dissolution follows high-profile corruption investigations involving its leadership. For example, in August 2021, the National Anti-Corruption Bureau of Ukraine detained Yevhen Hetman, a member of CRAIL, on charges of accepting a bribe of $90,000. Hetman was accused of soliciting the bribe in exchange for facilitating the issuance of gambling permits and licenses, including permits for gambling premises in the Chernihiv and Zaporizhzhia regions. Pardon my pronunciation, everybody. This past December, so that was a couple of years ago, three and a half years ago, Yevhen Hetman. But then in December 2024, Ukrainian authorities also detained Ivan Rudyi, who was the head of CRAIL, on suspicion of supporting a Russian-owned online casino operating within Ukraine. So the State Bureau of Investigation reported that under his leadership, CRAIL issued and then deliberately refrained from revoking a license to a commercial entity beneficially owned by Russian nationals. Despite assessments indicating the casino's operations posed a threat to national security, CRAIL took no action to revoke the license. So there you go, some pretty big allegations of corruption flying around the Ukrainian gambling sector, Nico, and I think it seems like the political system is saying enough's enough. We're starting again. This hasn't worked with CRAIL. We need a new regulator, something that's run in quite a different way. Is this a surprising story to you? Just 4 or 5 years after Ukraine first regulated?
No, it's not surprising, because just remember when in mid of 2023, out of a sudden, Zelensky started to sanction and shut down Ukrainian gaming operations or operators, with the most important name, Parimatch. You know, they had been the biggest operators in Ukraine, Ukraine's pride. Out of a sudden, they had been sanctioned, and they needed to shut down their operations in Ukraine as well. So then you come up with a quite interesting approach or story of Yerevan Hetman accepting a bribe of 90,000 euros, which is roughly 8% of the KSA regular 1 million euro fines. So he can come up with running things in the Netherlands as well. He just needs 12 more customers paying him a little bit, and then he can, run the KSE. Just a short joke on the side. But as you already pointed out, first of all, you don't shut down the biggest operator in Ukraine while not having a regulatory framework, which obviously doesn't work that good. So, of course, they needed to investigate on this end as well. But cutting a long story short, while being stuck in a war, I'm pretty sure they have other things to deal with as of now. Probably they should just onboard or get the knowledge of a working regulatory framework, which we have quite very good examples in Europe, in Brazil, probably, or in the United States, and then just apply this one to Ukraine as well, because their focus is for sure on other things as of now, rather than a regulatory framework for gaming operations.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of where this is coming from, Nico, and is that question of national security, and if the government feels that the existing gambling sector is a potential threat to national security, then of course dealing with that is the number one priority. Of course, we will keep you updated on that story as we learn more, but that's the latest that we have from Ukraine. And we are going further and further east with every story, Nico, because we're going all the way to Thailand next, which we've already spoken about as a potential land-based casino market opening up in the near future. But this week they've been talking about online gambling. Nico, I know you've been looking into this one. What have you got?
Yeah, so Thailand takes steps towards legalizing online gambling. The Thai government is waiving a proposal to legalize online gambling, a move aimed at increasing, guess what, tax revenue and regulating an industry that has so far operated largely underground, which means untaxed. The Bangkok Post reported that Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Digital Economy and Society has announced plans to initiate discussions on the matter. And this usually how it works. First of all, you come up with a tax code, then you investigate or shift your attention towards a regulatory framework, which we've seen in Virginia and Maryland as well. And then you open applications. Thailand's Deputy Prime Minister emphasized the need for coordination among various government ministries to ensure that necessary legal amendments are aligned. An official study on the feasibility of the proposal is expected to be completed within the next few months. The proposal comes in the wake of comments by former Prime Minister Thaksin Shinawatra, who last weekend advocated for the regulation of online gambling as a way to curb illegal activities and to bolster the economy. Of course, you can bolster the economy because more taxes are flying in. The former prime minister suggested that rather than pushing gambling further underground, legal oversight and taxation could yield significant social and economic benefits. Despite acknowledging the potential economic advantages, the Deputy Prime Minister acknowledged the social risk associated with online gambling as well. Fact is, people are using online gaming offerings so or so, but you should always put them into the safe space, which needs an underlying regulatory framework. So people will be able to use licensed operators instead of unlicensed and non-taxed operators as well. The activity has been linked to various societal problems, particularly among younger populations, and has been connected to criminal operations, including scams and the use of proxy bank accounts by so-called mules. When asked about the possibility of implementing age restrictions, such as barring those under 20 from participating in online gambling, the Deputy Prime Minister said discussions on such measure have not yet started. But first of all, you already have the mindset, which is one of the first reasons to actually start the discussion. The proposal follows a related initiative by the government to establish legal entertainment complexes, including casinos. Major operators, including MGM China and Las Vegas Sands, along with key suppliers such as Light and Wonder, have identified Thailand as a promising market and expressed interest in entering it. So what is your take, Connor, on this one?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. As you mentioned there, Thailand's one of those sort of quite promising jurisdictions for some of the casino operators. I think with the amount of tourism and everything that goes on, then it will be quite an appealing prospect to build one of the first land-based casino and entertainment complexes in that country. It makes sense to me that online would go together with that, and I always think, well, why not? If you're already introducing a new regulatory framework, why not include provisions for online as well? You know, we haven't got loads and loads of detail about the UAE yet, but we know that there's some amount of sort of online sort of language in that legislation as well, which appears to allow, you know, I think some of the supplier licenses have been approved to supply online products, for example. So we don't know exactly what those online operations might look like, but it does make sense if you're introducing a totally new regulatory framework. Well, why not try and maximize, of course, maximize the tax revenue that comes from that, but also maximize the offers and the different ways that customers can then engage with the sector. For me, it makes perfect sense. Again, you're right that they've obviously got this in their minds in the government there. It's not at an advanced stage. So we'll have that first feasibility report within a few months. I don't see why it wouldn't be feasible. And like you said about Virginia and Maryland and everywhere else in the world, if you don't have a regulatory framework, it doesn't mean people don't gamble. Of course, people are gambling online in Thailand and everywhere else. The only question is whether you can effectively regulate and tax it and make it have some benefit to your local society. So I say go for it, Thailand. Let's do it.
Exactly.
There you go. Well, those are our four main stories, and I note that everybody who's been watching live and sitting in the comments is being shy with their predictions for 2025. Maybe people don't want to put themselves out there and get something wrong, but I know you're not afraid of getting things wrong, Nico, because let's face it, you never do. So are you ready for your big prediction for 2025? What have you got for us?
So first of all, and this is something we've already seen, we will see an increase in fines. First of all, companies being fined from the UK Gambling Commission, from the KSA, and I'm pretty sure there will be other regulatory supervisors in Europe taking their own participation in this little crazy dance as well. So with the £1 million, €1 million, which seems to be the as of now one of the lower end fines which are handed out by KSA and the UK Gambling Commission. So this we will see significantly higher fines based on AML, probably player security as well. So this is one of the things which I see in 2025 being happening.
Yeah, lots of money. There'll be a big Christmas party for the Gambling Commission with all the money they'll be making this year, I'm sure. Although, you know, as time goes on, I think that they're always a little bit behind in terms of when obviously they do an investigation, maybe they come up with a fine or a settlement 12 or 18 months later. I do think the industry has been cleaning up its act an awful lot over the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, whatever. And I think eventually we'll reach a peak of these fines and it will start to come down again as operators begin to behave themselves better. And also as the technology that they use to stay compliant improves. So let's see, Nico, if you are right. Ayadeji wants to know about M&A. I have no specific prediction on M&A for you, but what I do have is this. Here's what I think my big prediction for 2025. I think the Brazilian regulated market is probably going to be a little bit disappointing for licensed operators there, or for a lot of them. I think, and I don't know if we'll have any way of verifying this, I think the channelization rate in Brazil by the end of 2025 will be something like 35% of GGR or less in the regulated market. I think the government has made one particular crucial error, which is this tax on player winnings. Players know the rules, they're not stupid, and they know that they're going to be able to keep more of their winnings if they go to an operator who's not regulated. And it's something like, I think it's 15% of winnings over about 4,000 reals, maybe. It's somewhere in the region of 500 euros. Obviously, for most casual players, that's not going to be a big problem. But so even if you you may get the majority of players using regulated offerings, but I don't think the majority of revenue is going to go through regulated offerings. I think those players who are regularly gambling amounts more than that are going to stay well away from anywhere where their winnings are going to be taxed at 15%. So don't shoot the messenger, Nico, but I think 35% channelization by revenue.
In Brazil.
In Brazil.
So this is what you're seeing for 2025.
That's my prediction. I don't know if we'll ever have any way of knowing, but that's good because that means nobody can prove me wrong.
No, we will always follow up on these ones as well. But it's quite interesting. First of all, M&As. We will see M&As for sure. For one reason, as already anticipated, with the investments to participate either in the UAE, Ras Al Khaimah, which is roughly 3.5 up to $5 billion in the island of Manhattan, as said, $12 billion. And I'm pretty sure the casino at Times Square doesn't come cheap as well. So first of all, we've seen this already. As soon as the anticipated numbers are not matching with the numbers in reality. Just think about Caesars entering the sports betting market in New York as well, with a sign-up bonus up to $3,000. So if you're in the big numbers game, sometimes you might end up with biting something off the cake which you can't chew. And then those in favor with big and deep pockets are able to actually buy these assets. So we will see someone, a bigger operator, investing heavily into something of these big project, and out of a sudden they will face some severe danger and might be taking offside, off court, being bought by another company. I don't see the smaller operators like the 888s of these worlds buying William Hill when a 400, 600 million company out of a sudden buys a company worth 1.5 billion. I don't see this one within this year. But as said, we will for sure see M&A in the operators at the operator side. We did not yet see a move by Las Vegas Sands, and they are clearly looking into B2B operations as well. So watch out what Las Vegas Sands will do. And we will for sure see M&A activities in the affiliate market, like the Better Collective of this world. And also based on what you've just said about Brazil, as of now, the M&A operations or the M&A deals in Brazil have already happened. So as soon as the markets in Thailand, maybe in Japan as well, or in Singapore, Vietnam, or wherever, you will then see M&A activity in the affiliate market as well. And this is one of the things which I predict based on what Ayodi Akinoson, sorry for mispronouncing this one, has predicted as well.
Yeah, there you go, Nico. Absolutely. We had a big wave of M&A last year, and it shows no sign of slowing down with our latest story on Tipico as well. So we will be keeping an eye, as always, a watchful eye on the news and bringing you the biggest headlines every week in 2025. So, of course, we will be back here at the same place at the same time next week. And I must say thank you, Nico, for joining me. Thank you to everybody for watching. Thank you to Hub88, our sponsor. And we'll see you here next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.